it does not need a particular graded lesson to back what those leaders already know. And it is frustrating. I still find it frustrating, but it will take time, Victoria. I know that. On Twitter again, Ross McGill Teacher Toolkit. He's the most followed teacher in Twitter. He's got well over 100,000 followers. Ross has talked about this. I've talked with him about this, and there's still a percentage of schools who do grade lessons, even though there's nothing around the Ofsted framework that says that you need to do this. So, what's actually the audience for grading lessons? I don't see that audience is there, but this is a very personal point of view, but it's also an Ofsted point of view. Ofsted do not grade lessons. So if Ofsted don't, why should schools feel that they need to? Yeah, quantity data, but you can collect that in different ways. And I realise an unfair system, but it's always down to the subjectivity of the person that's actually giving the grade. Oh my goodness me, I have to get outstanding for 2 observations to progress. And how many lessons do you teach in a year, Victoria? Yeah, that's it. Progress is in many ways a better measure. It's a measure that at least has wider implications than simply 3 lesson observations in a year, 2 of which you have to get outstanding for. And what do you manage to do for getting 2 outstanding lessons, Victoria? Do you get a pay increase? Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know. There are different ways of doing it. Is all I'll say to finish up on that one, and hopefully the grading of lessons will reduce further over the next year or so. Only way to move up the scale. Surely there are other ways of judging the quality of teaching. Still, I'll come away from that. I've spent probably enough time on it. Sorry, I've gone backwards. My fault. Let's come on to personal development, behaviour and welfare. Well done, Victoria. Yeah, I understand that, Gemma, but Ofsted won't reinforce any message. Ofsted are there to give messages on how to do things. They're there to look at the outcomes of schools. So that message isn't going to come through, I'm sorry. I won't give that message in school. I might talk about it with the head teacher in a closed room and say it might be worth thinking about this, but I'm certainly not going to say it in anything wider than that. Personal development, behaviour and welfare. Look at the title first of all. This is much wider than the old behaviour and safety, although safety is still in there. If there are safeguarding problems with a school, or if safeguarding problems are perceived by parents, then the school will get a full Section 5, whether it's been good, RI, or outstanding before. And if a safeguarding complaint comes in, then a full team will go in. And it won't be a short inspection either for an outstanding school, well, it won't be short inspections for outstanding schools, or for a good school. It will be a Ofsted, through the framework and through the handbook, are looking at pupils more. And you can see the kind of things that I've picked out, and they're not everything that I picked out from the framework on page 52, the handbook on page 52. If you have it with you and you look at it, you'll see there are other inspections for in terms of pupil behaviours. And I talk to very confident and self-assured pupils in many schools, and your Ofsted inspectors will talk to pupils in many ways, shapes or forms, in classrooms and in small groups and they'll select those small groups carefully. And they'll especially look at groups of pupils and send pupils, especially maybe free school meals pupils, different groups. They'll be expecting those groups to demonstrate these kind of things. Attendance is another one, which is covered in this area. It's still a limiting judgment is attendance if your attendance is in the bottom 10%. Now, what the bottom 10% is always a retrospective, because attendance figures don't come through until a year after RAISE has been produced for that year. So you're always looking at past attendance figures through RAISE Online, and you will be this year. However, the last figures were in the 2014 framework, and it actually gave them a primary schools was 93, and this is off the top of my head, as I quoted it at school yesterday, or to a school yesterday, not inspecting, 93.37, I think. And secondary schools, the bottom 10%, I think starts at about 91.8. If you are in that bottom 10%, that's an area where you've got to be careful and not massage your figures, but explain the figures fully. If you had, say, an outbreak of a particular health problem in the school, maybe the flu or something like that, that may have really hit your attendance figures in a particular time and has hit your overall attendance figure. If you've done very well on attendance, if say you're a coastal town, you do very well on attendance until Easter, and then you get holidays coming, that's more of an iffy one, because you're expected to manage those holidays. And I know that's an issue and will be an issue for some of you, but you are expected to manage that. I'm not sure that I'd be looking at that favourably as a reason why your attendance was lower, because there are schools in similar circumstances to other schools who do very well with attendance, and even in, say, coastal resorts. I say coastal resorts because I used to work in Torbay, and there are particular problems with low-income families that have seasonal work and need that seasonal work, so they tend to take their children on holiday at other times. But it can be a limiting judgment. If it's somewhere around national norms attendance, and national norms for a primary school last year was 96.1, or the year before last, attendance, so 3.9% absence. Secondary schools were a little bit below that, and I'm loath to quote the figure. I think it's about 95%, maybe 94.8 or something. If you're around that, that's not going to do you any harm for getting good at your inspection. But there is a phrase in the inspection handbook which says that pupils rarely have a day off, and that's in the outstanding descriptor. So there are things around attendance there that you need to be a little bit careful with, and just make sure that your attendance is explained if it's in that bottom 10%. It's certainly not the behaviour that the teams see on inspection. And it was under the last framework, and it is under this framework's behaviour over time. Your behaviour logs will show that, but pupils will as well. And I've often got a group of 6 pupils around the table with me from mainly older years in a primary school, can be any years in a secondary school, and I'm asking them, what's behaviour like? What was it like? Not just what is it like now? If you've got any questions around personal development, behaviour and welfare, do ask. You've got, some of you may have off-site units. Anybody got that? Anybody a secondary school perhaps that has an off